I spent 8 months soothing my chronic anxiety, and during this time I was desperate for relief, so I tried all sorts of practices. And there was one practice that had the most life-changing results. My number one advice for anxiety relief is to change your self-talk, to learn compassionate self-talk. And the reason that this is important is because compassionate self-talk creates a safe inner landscape. I'll talk about why this matters and what I did to change my self-talk from critical to compassionate. This topic is from my online course, Yin Yang Elemental Wisdom for Anxiety Relief. If this sounds like something that would interest you, the link is in the description below. So before we get into it, I think it's good to go over the meaning of compassion. So compassion means to suffer together. So self-compassion is telling yourself that we are in this together, that we will get through this together. So when your self-talk is compassionate, you create this sense of togetherness within yourself, that you are on your own side. And this is really important when you're feeling anxious, because from my experience, I've learned that anxiety is a manifestation of a lack of self-acceptance. So when we don't accept ourselves as a whole, and we're constantly trying to ignore or suppress certain sides of ourselves, we become fractured on the inside. There's a lack of togetherness, a lack of unity, of wholeness on the inside. And this creates a really fearful and hostile environment that can breed anxiety. So this is why compassionate self-talk is so important, because it then becomes a practice of accepting yourself as a whole. So a lot of people ask me how I changed my self-talk, what I did exactly, and how long it took. And I'm going to go into that now. So the first thing that you need to do is to learn compassionate self-talk. This means learning phrases, words, expressions that are compassionate, that feel compassionate for you. And I think that's the most important thing. It really has to feel compassionate for you. So for me, what felt the most compassionate when I was experiencing chronic anxiety were phrases like, I'm listening, you're safe, I'm here for you, I'll never leave you, you're never alone. And repeating phrases like this really helped me to feel safe and supported when I was feeling very anxious. I think that compassionate self-talk is not widely modeled. It's not something that we often hear about or talk about, and self-talk is very private. So I think that we need to make that effort and proactively seek sources, seek references, and find what works for us, find what feels good and supportive for us. So one of the ways that you can do that is to listen to metta meditations or self-compassion meditations and listen to the phrases that they use in the meditation. They may or may not resonate with you, but they can become a starting point and give you some idea of what compassionate self-talk could sound like. It's really about learning a new language. Before I started practicing compassionate self-talk, I had never spoken to myself in this way before. It was completely new to me. It was like learning a foreign language. So it'll take time to get used to that language. At first, it made me really embarrassed to talk to myself with self-compassion. So it takes time to learn compassionate self-talk and also to get used to using it. So the second thing that I recommend you doing is practice replacing negative self-talk with compassionate self-talk. So once you have those phrases and expressions that you want to use, you have to practice repeating them every day. I think I repeated compassionate self-talk about 50 times a day because I was chronically anxious. So every time you notice that you're speaking to yourself negatively, just pause and choose to replace that negative self-talk with compassionate self-talk. And I think it's important that you continue to do this immediately, in the moment, whenever you notice that you've used negative self-talk. And sometimes it can be difficult to notice when we're speaking to ourselves negatively because we can be so used to it. It's a habit, it's just the default mode. And that's how it was for me. I used to be very critical and judgmental. My self-talk was very unkind. And before I started practicing compassionate self-talk, I wasn't even aware. I didn't know that I was talking to myself in such a negative way. And what really helped me was meditation, because meditation helps you to become aware of the way you talk to yourself. Because you're sitting there in silence, listening to the ways that you speak to yourself in your head. So if meditation is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend practicing every day, because it really goes in tandem with this practice of changing your self-talk. So I practiced using compassionate self-talk for about 8 months. And this is when I one day realized that I was speaking to myself compassionately without having to make an effort. It had become the default mode for me. Finally, I was starting to create a consistently safe environment for myself through compassionate self-talk. And this doesn't mean that you'll never feel anxious again, because I also experience anxiety from time to time, but it's less common now, it's less frequent. And when I do experience anxiety, I'm able to respond with compassion because I've built this habit of speaking to myself compassionately. So when I tell people that it took 8 months, a lot of people are surprised, and I think it sounds like a long time, but that amount of time is what sets the habit in place. And this is how compassionate self-talk becomes the default mode. And it's absolutely worth it to spend this amount of time changing your self-talk, because once you change your self-talk, so much changes. You feel safe on the inside, so you feel safe on the outside. Walking around in the world, I used to feel so unsafe. I used to feel like someone was going to attack me at any moment. That's how I felt when I was chronically anxious. And by creating an environment that's so safe and supportive on the inside, it really changed my anxiety. It really changed the way that I see and perceive the world around me. And the thing is, we can't always rely on external help to soothe our anxiety. Of course, it's great to have friends and family that can support us, to go to therapy, to have medication that works for us. All of this is really helpful and supportive, but it can't always be there for us. But compassionate self-talk is a tool that is always with us. There isn't a single moment in the day where we can escape our self-talk. It's always there, and it's always available to you. I know how uncomfortable it is to be chronically anxious. I know how scary it is, and I always wish that I could get more help. I always wish that I could go to therapy more often, that there was someone there to hold my hand, to go outside with me, and that's not always possible. But you can always be there for yourself. The voice in your head will always be there. So when that voice is compassionate, when it is loving, when it is supportive, it changes everything. Compassionate self-talk is like fertilizer for your inner landscape. It supports and nurtures more self-acceptance, self-love, and self-worth. And when you feel that way on the inside, then even in moments of anxiety, you're able to support yourself and feel safe. And the support and safety that you feel from yourself, from within, is incomparable to any other support that you can receive from the outside, from anyone else. So if you're prone to anxiety and you're looking for relief The number one thing that I would advise you to do is to observe your self talk. Notice what it's like right now, especially in moments of anxiety, and make the effort to change your self talk to one that's more compassionate, more supportive, and more loving.